Welcome back to the thrilling crime-solving journey of Xu Qi'an in the Nightwatcher, Chapter 26. Virtue. Li Mubai suddenly gestured, and the carriage driver was lifted off the ground by an unseen force, landing softly by the roadside. "Let me handle this," Li Mubai said, expertly taking hold of the reins. "This horse can travel 1,000 miles at a single gallop." What happened next was astonishing. The carriage horse, an otherwise ordinary stallion, let out a powerful neigh full of vigor. Its chestnut coat rippled as muscles swelled, transforming it into a creature nearly twice the size of a normal horse. Li Mubai's carriage sped away like a streak of lightning. Zhang Shen scoffed, "You're ridiculous. What kind of horse has 6 legs?" He grabbed the reins, replacing the driver as he spoke in a low voice. "Not only is this horse strong and swift, but it also has 6 legs." Once more, the transformation took place. The black horse expanded just like its counterpart, muscles rippling under its gleaming coat. The difference, however, was that its belly split open, bones cracking as 2 new horse legs burst forth, allowing it to sprint with unprecedented speed, kicking up a cloud of dust as it raced to catch up. "You old fool, how can a horse have 6 legs?" Li Mubai shouted in anger. "I said what I said," Zhang Shen replied with a smirk. "Fine, then my horse has 8 legs." "HMPH, you're insufferable. Still trying to compete over disciples? My carriage glides like a feather, carried by the wind." With that, a gust swept in, and Zhang Shen's carriage soared away as if made of nothing more than silk. Not to be outdone, Li Mubai shouted back, "My carriage rides on clouds." From the ground, a white cloud emerged, clinging to the wheels and lifting the carriage into the sky. Xu Pingzi gaped, utterly astonished by the spectacle. It was only when both carriages vanished on the horizon that he swallowed hard and muttered, "Scholars can really spin tales, can't they?" Xu Tan Nian gazed upward, his heart swelling with longing. This isn't exaggeration. This is the essence of virtue from the Confucian scriptures. He remembered the sneering words of the grand scholar when drunk. "The scholar uses culture to disrupt the law, what a joke." Xu Qi'an sat cross-legged on a straw mat, shackles binding his limbs, back against the cold stone wall. He took in the musty, damp air that reeked of decay, feeling as if he'd returned to the prison within the magistrate's manor. From the fragmentary records he'd read in the forbidden archives, it seemed that the capital's officialdom was rife with moral decay, too corrupt for even the emperor to hear of before it was silenced. The overwhelming weight of this knowledge felt like a heavy stone on his heart. As the thought crossed his mind, if they're afraid of a political rival's retribution, why not just execute me now? Isn't it easier to break the family line than to bear such shame? I've truly miscalculated, Xu Qi'an thought bitterly. It's easy to offend any minor officials, but if you step on the toes of the higher-ups, it's a one-way ticket to ruin. How can I gain power and strength? The metallic clang of the iron door echoed down the hall, and heavy footsteps approached. Before long, a guard appeared with 2 armored soldiers, weapons drawn. "Time for your meal before we take your head," the guard sneered. He opened the door but stepped back, barking, "Come out." The soldiers kept their hands firmly on their swords, eyes sharp with caution. Despite Xu Qi'an's shackles, he was still a formidable opponent, a peak warrior. They understood that when desperate, a cornered dog would bite. "You better cooperate. You don't want us to turn you into a pincushion," the guard warned. Xu Qi'an fell silent for a moment, weighing his options. Meanwhile, the Minister of Justice was buried under mountains of paperwork and records when he suddenly sensed something. He glanced toward the window. In a split second, 2 shadowy figures rushed into view. As they drew closer, it became clear they were 2 carriages. One floated eerily on the winds, while the other gracefully descended like a cloud. Side by side, They approached and both landed in the courtyard of the Ministry of Justice. As the powerful stallion hit the ground, it collapsed, as if it had expended every ounce of its life force, crumpling lifelessly. Officials and guards from the ministry rushed toward the commotion. The Minister of Justice, dressed in official robes, frowned as he welcomed them. He had a square face, and when furrowing his brow in concentration, he radiated authority. "Brother Chushan, Brother Genyan, what brings you both to our ministry today?" The minister's tone was serious. Although the National Academy and the Vunluang Academy had a long-standing rivalry, seeing both prominent scholars together warranted his personal attention. Zhang Shen clasped his hands together, speaking gravely. "A disciple of mine, Xu Qi'an, has been captured by your department. I ask that you release him." "Caught a student from the Vunluang Academy? Is this why you're here?" The minister's brow tightened. "The ministry has the right to manage its prisons. We don't capture people without cause. Please, enlighten me." He did not acquiesce immediately, knowing that despite the National Academy's influence in court, the Vunluang Academy was still formidable given its reputation as the heart of Confucian philosophy. The two sides exchanged tensions. Vunluang's claim was not one to be taken lightly. Just then, some aides rushed in, shouting, "Minister! A group of white-clad members from the Divine Examination Bureau is coming. They're storming the ministry. We can't hold them back." The minister turned sharply, following the sound to see an imposing array of white-robed disciples flooding into the ministry. Leading them was a tall, striking man adorned with the insignia of an alchemy expert, thick eyebrows and tired eyes hinting at a life of sleepless nights. He was Song Cheng, the fourth disciple of the Divine Examination Bureau. The fierce aura radiating from him made the minister's expression darken. "You're violating the law by barging in here. Withdraw this instant." Song Cheng halted, letting out a heavy sigh before saying casually, "We've come to demand one person." The minister's pulse quickened, a shadow of realization passing over him. "Who?" "Xu Qi'an. He was captured unjustly by the ministry today." Again with Xu Qi'an. Who was this man to draw the attention of both the scholars of Vunluang Academy and the Divine Examination Bureau? In Daifeng, no one dared to offend the Bureau, not even the Vunluang Academy, who held themselves as the rightful heirs of Confucian thought. The Bureau notoriously mocked scholars for using words to distort the law. Yet none dared openly oppose them. What's going on? Who is Xu Qi'an, and why haven't I heard of him before? You've been living under a rock. Don't you know about the tax fraud case? Xu Qi'an is the one who solved it. But he's just a martial artist. What does he have to do with scholars and the Bureau? Strange. Why did the ministry arrest him in the first place? The bureaucrats huddled together, whispering and speculating. The minister waved one of the officers over. Has the ministry been issued a warrant for one Xu Qi'an today? The officer hesitated, then hurried off, returning moments later with a stack of documents in hand. Minister, there's no mention of Xu Qi'an in today's arrest documents. None? The minister's expression darkened further. Then who issued the arrest? Ah, I know, the officer replied, glancing nervously towards a figure in a robe among the crowd. It was the Jinlang guards. All eyes turned to that direction. The officer who had just returned hadn't even had time for a sip of tea since returning to the ministry. Still trembling as he held the documents in hand. Chapter 27. A grim demand. The cold gaze of the minister swept across the room, sharp and calculating. The royal physician, suddenly thrown into a state of panic, bowed his head meekly and stepped forward. My lord, a situation has arisen rather unexpectedly. I didn't have time to bring the arrest warrant because the person in question is a martial artist and also a guard of the imperial blade assigned to Xu Pingzi. there's a likelihood he could escape justice. His voice, though loud enough for the minister to hear, trembled with anxiety as he stood just 6 paces away. Inside, he reckoned that he could be in hot water at any moment. It was all too precarious. Master Xu ordered his entourage to pursue a criminal, claiming that he was assaulted on the road and nearly bleeding to death. Given the urgency, I decided it prudent to detain the suspect before he had the chance to flee. The white-robed Inquisition officers exchanged dubious glances. The chaotic scuffles on the streets were common occurrences, and it was not unheard of for the enforcement officials to recognize established procedures even without formal paperwork. Li Mobo and Zhang Shen shared a knowing look. Li stepped forward, voice steady and authoritative. The sage advises us, a gentleman must uphold the truth. The royal physician's heart raced. He felt his blood rush to his face, shame flooding in as his lie weighed heavily on him. Despising himself, he rebelled against the cowardice of the moment. In a burst of indignation, his mouth moved before his mind could seize control. Lord Xu is intent on seeing Xu Qi'an imprisoned. He wants him dead in the dungeons of the Ministry of Justice to quell his own grudge. I thought I could secure a favor for Lord Xu. Sinking to the ground, the physician slumped, his brow gleaming with sweat. A quiet chatter rose around him. The assembly, more than a dozen officers from the ministry, laid their eyes upon him. Some looked at him with scorn, others with mockery, while a few shook their heads, sighing at the unfolding debacle. Despicable. Tomorrow I'll be writing a report detailing your misdeeds, one officer declared, his voice cutting through the tension. The white-robed minister of justice remained expressionless, observing the physician's ghostly pallor, the daze in his eyes. Relay my order. Release him. As the clink of chains echoed, Xu Qi'an was led into the torture chamber. Meanwhile, Lord Xu had exchanged into a deep indigo cape, one that concealed malice under its seemingly innocuous exterior. Seated upon a fine stallion with a golden blade at his side, he rested one foot on a chair, his expression a masked delight, a white cloth wrapped around his torn ear as if hiding a trophy of malice. At his side stood an elderly man gaunt of frame, robed in blue with golden trims glinting at the collar and cuffs. Sharp-eyed, he glared at Xu Qi'an, concealing his murderous intent behind a veneer of civility. 2 jailers lingered nearby, reveling in Xu Qi'an's plight, and amusement written across their faces. With a dismissive wave of his hand, Lord Xu commanded one of the jailers. The man pulled a slip of paper from his cloak, shaking it in mocking defiance before Xu Qi'an. You have 2 paths before you. Lord Xu sneered, his gaze filled with arrogance. You can confess your crimes willingly or endure the full extent of our hospitality. And then confess. Xu Qi'an took a moment to examine the document. It roughly chronicled Xu Qi'an, a constable associated with the Changye district, engaged in a violent altercation with Chu Lap, intending to kill him through brute force, resulting in severe injury. All based on the hearsay of a man from an influential family. Should he sign this, the harshest punishment would be banishment, while a mere shift in sentiments could lead to his execution, a death sentence without any recourse. He felt the sting of reality settle in as he looked up from the paper. Sign it and endure severe torment, he challenged, his voice steady despite the rising storm of emotions within. Chu Lap smirked, relishing the torment he was about to deliver. No, it's a choice, really. Confess first, then suffer. Or suffer first and confess after. Laughter bubbled among the jailers. Xu Qi'an's expression darkened. The more enraged he became, the more entertainment it provided to Lord Xu. Fearsome indeed, he taunted, chuckling at the prospect of Xu Qi'an's downfall. Tran, are these chains secure? If our little mouse happens to become violent, what then? The elderly man chuckled softly. Master, fret not. A mere insect, I can crush him with one hand. Then I shall rest easy, Lord Xu said, rising to examine the array of tortuous instruments laid out before him. 24 different contrivances, each designed to inflict maximum pain without ending a life. A master's tools, perfect for eliciting confessions. I wouldn't kill you, it would be too generous. Xu Qi'an's gaze wandered over the devices, barbed and stained with the remnants of past agony. The thought of his grim future quickened his pulse. He swallowed hard. By now, Kai Wei, a promising acolyte at the Inquisition, should have received the summons from Chief Wang, so why hadn't she come to his aid? Surely. The manuscript he wrote was so compelling that even an alchemist would be eagerly turning the pages, desperate to uncover what happened next. Yet here he remained, doomed, a pawn in a game of power. As sweat beaded on his forehead, Xu Qi'an cursed his own vulnerability. Lord Xu, keenly attuned to his expressions, delighted in each flicker of fear that coursed across Xu Qi'an's face. He continued his taunts. Word has it you were raised by your uncle Xu Pingzi. You two must share a strong bond. Indeed, I suspect you and your uncle orchestrated this whole plot together. He shot back, veins pulsing in agitation. Sir Chu, the confession letter lacks your signature. One of the jailers interjected, dread evident in their eyes. Fool! Write it again, barked another jailer, exasperated. Then let's get to it. Right here and now. Before our little guest. Lord Xu guffawed. Laughter echoed within the chamber, until suddenly, the iron door swung open with a creak, and a burly guard ushered in a man clad in green robes. The newcomer spared a glance, relieved to see Xu Qi'an unscathed, and then exhaled slowly. Take him with me. At last, relief washed over Xu Qi'an. The weight of dread began to lift. The jailers instinctively flicked their eyes toward Lord Xu, who shifted his glare. My lord, we're in the middle of interrogating a suspect, he protested, dissatisfaction spreading across his face. The green-robed official chuckled enigmatically. This is the Ministry of Justice, not the Department of State. If you wish to interrogate a criminal, perhaps the Department of State is where you belong. Justice is not for the faint of heart. With that, he commanded, you lot, move him out now. In that moment, Xu Qi'an felt the avalanche of tension that had been weighing on him finally ease.
Thanks for listening till the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter.